Hey everyone, welcome back to the Intentional Youth Ministry channel. I want to take a minute today and talk to you a little bit about what I call bait and switch. And this idea of baiting and switching. I think unfortunately sometimes in church world, we can communicate one thing, but then we don't actually fully deliver on what we communicate. And I want to talk about the importance of this, one from an integrity issue and a standpoint, because I believe that our words and our actions should match up. But secondly, I think it's so important because we're trying to build trust and credibility with the young people that God has called us to pastor and to reach. I'll never forget a few years ago, I had gone to visit a youth ministry at a church, and they had communicated this idea of like, hey, it's going to be awesome and incredible, and hey, invite your friends to this thing. We're going to do this big night with like, it's just going to be, they communicated it as a big fun event to invite their unchurched friends to. So they told all these students coming, hey, next week, invite all your friends, even unchurched. It's going to be a fun night. We're going to have games. We're going to have all kinds of free food. It's going to be incredible. So students showed up for this thing, and I happened to be out there. And students showed up, but the reality was students, when they got there, there was actually a full-fledged youth service. And when I say youth service, I mean students came in, and they went right into worship, and it was this long set of worship, probably 45 minutes of worship. And then the youth pastor proceeded to preach this message for 30 minutes. And then after that, they had a short little window of like fun with some games and some free food. Some of you might go, what's wrong with that? That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you've communicated that the event is going to be. But when you communicate to your students, hey, bring your unchurched, bring your lost friends. This is going to be an awesome, just a fun night. And then you don't deliver on that. They show up and it actually ends up being this pretty in-depth church service. You now have lost credibility with those young people, and they start to not to trust you. So what they start doing, assuming that they continue to come to your student ministry, they get to the point where they just don't bring their friends with them at all because they don't trust that it's a safe place for them to bring their friends. And I'll give you an example of that. So that night, I'm there, I'm hanging out with the youth pastor and some of his leaders in the back, talking as students are coming in, worship is starting, and they go up, and there's this group of young men that come into the building. There's probably about 6 or 7 of these young men come in. They've never been before. You can tell kind of like church is not their vibe typically, and they show up though to check this out because they had heard from some friends that it was going to be this really fun, cool, awesome night. So they get in there, and they sit in the back during worship. But about the third song into worship, these young men, all of them get up and they start to walk out the back of the auditorium. And I remember being there as the youth pastor runs after them and says, hey guys, what's going on? Hey, like, why are you leaving? And their response was, we're leaving because this isn't what we were told this was. We were told this was going to be kind of a fun hangout night with free food and free fun. We weren't told this was going to be like a church service. And this young group of men who typically don't go to church, that they had an opportunity to invest in and make an impact, now just left the church because basically there was a bait and switch kind of thing happening. I say all this not to condemn you, but just to encourage you. Like when you're planning things, especially when you're trying to plan something to reach the lost and the unchurched, let's not do the whole bait and switch thing. Let's communicate what we're going to do, and then actually let's follow through with what we're going to do. Because again, it's not just trust and credibility that's on the line, but it's actually lives. It's souls that are on the line. So let's just be careful to not do the whole bait and switch vibe. Hopefully that encourages you guys as you're building programming and events to reach young people. We'll see you guys next time.